Do you think we make a trade for an end? All right. It was just a matter of time. I was going to bring it up, but let's delve into this. The trading deadline isn't what a month and a half away, maybe a little bit more than that, or right around there, month and a half away. Do the 49ers hold off? Do they try to do something now when the price would be steeper and they don't know exactly where the team is going? Or do they wait until they get closer to that deadline and the price tag, both in compensation to send to another team in a trade, as well as the salary numbers would be down because they would have already played basically half the season? Do they wait until then just to see how the team is looking, how it's coming along, how the rookies are playing, where they need help, where they don't need help, what they feel comfortable giving up for the future? And, Kyle Shanahan answered on Monday like I would expect him to. They're always looking to get better. They're always open to seeing who's available, how they could add, but it takes two to tango. Uh, the other team will be using the 49ers as leverage to try to get another deal, a better deal. And so, just here's a few names that I'm going to throw out there. I know the first one probably on everybody's mind is Trey Hendrickson. Um, this is a guy that's 31 years old, had 17 and a half sacks last year, already off to a good start. But are the Bengals going anywhere? Probably not. They look right now with Joe Burrow out to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, as they showed Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. So is that a possibility? He's making 16 million for this season. So let's just say they get him half the year, 8 million. What's he going to take? Are the Bengals even interested in trading him away when they could franchise him next year, keep him under contract? So, also with the 49ers, what draft picks would it cost? And when you look at the last two drafts of the 49ers, you could make the argument that they got into deep trouble when they traded away so many of their draft picks, for Trey Lance, certainly, and then obviously to a lesser degree Christian McCaffrey, because McCaffrey has produced in a big way for this team. But you look at the last 2 years, the two drafts that they've had. I just wonder if it makes them put more of an emphasis on drafting these guys, not giving up those draft picks, keeping their own picks, and knowing you have those young players under contract for 4 years, and also maybe trying to reopen that window or opening a different window with the nucleus of the veteran guys, but also this influx of young talent. Last year, getting Ricky Pearsall, Dominic Pooney, who, by the way, isn't off to a great start. Renardo Green, not necessarily off to a great start either, but both of those guys, Pooney and Green, I think the team likes them. I think they have reason to like them. Malik Mustafa, who will be back middle of the season as well. And then this draft really looks good. 6 guys out of this rookie class who are immediate contributors, and then some others who down the line could work their way into starting roles as too. But you look at this draft with Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, Upton Stout, Marquise Siegel, CJ West, and then the 7th round pick, Connor Colby. And by the way, Connor Colby did struggle in this first game as a starter against the Cardinals. You would expect him to have struggled, seeing that he was going up against those veteran guys on the interior of the Cardinals defensive line. But so that's part of it. What would they have to give up in as far as draft picks to get a player like Trey Hendrickson? And does that make sense for the short term and the long term? Are the 49ers one edge rusher away from knocking that door down and winning the Super Bowl? I don't know. Another name that's I've heard, Cameron Jordan. With him, 36 years old, he's played 15 seasons with the New Orleans Saints. At that point, and the Saints aren't going anywhere. But does it make sense for the Saints to just cast aside a guy who's been part of that organization for so long? Do they want to make sure that they just keep him as a lifelong Saints player? Or does he say, get me out of here? I want to go to a contender. So that could swing either way. That would definitely be Cameron Jordan, I think, making that call, whether he is fine if the team traded him or not. Not much salary that the Friars would have to pick up on that one. So that does make some sense. He only had 4.5 sacks last year in 17 games, but off to a good start this year, 1.5 sacks through 3 games. Here's some other names I'm going to throw out there. Malcolm Kuntz from the Raiders, Draymond Jones from Tennessee. Let's keep an eye on those Tennessee Titans guys, because Draymond Jones and Arden Key, 2 players who are in the final years of their contract. The Titans aren't going anywhere. Titans are right down there with the Saints as far as the worst teams in the NFL. So, if they can get something from any of those players, I would think that they would do that. Danico Autry from the Texans. Texans are 0-3. He's 34 years old. And then, I think those are the main guys that I'd be looking at. Hendrickson and Jordan, Cam Jordan, if they really shoot high. And then guys like Arden Key and Draymond Jones, Malcolm Kuntz, Danico Autry. So those are the guys who are defensive ends who may or may not have a lot left, but are in the final years of their contracts with their respective teams. So that's why I put all those guys kind of in the same category. All right, let's see what else we got here. I just listed some of the names. Injury, sadly, are part of the game, and it's so random. No one to blame. It's just a major bummer when it happens. You know what? That's from G-Man Music. I agree. I think that we can talk until we're blue in the face about what the 49ers are doing behind the scenes to prevent injuries, to deal with injuries. I just have a really difficult time believing that what they're doing is so egregious that they're the only ones in the league getting injured. You can see the injury report every week around the league and the number of significant players who are out of lineups every week. I just think that, there's an inherent risk, obviously, playing football. And I don't know, again, call me naive, whatever. I just think it's bad luck. When it all boils down to it, it's bad luck. And I don't think there's any predicting injuries. There can obviously, you can do things to prevent injuries and to recover from injuries and get back out there. But I can't imagine the 49ers are doing anything different than other teams around the league. Now, maybe you could look at it last year and say, well, they did have one of the oldest teams in the NFL last year, if not the oldest team. This year, they still have, some older players, but they also have a lot of young guys. So they're not the oldest team in the league. And heck, 2 of their oldest players are the punter and the long snapper. So, it probably skews their numbers a little bit as far as where they rank as far as age goes. But I just think injuries are part of the game, and anybody who puts on the uniform is predisposed to injuries just because of the nature of the sport. Let's see here. Season over. I don't know that the season is over, but I think it's quite clear that as good as they can be, they won't be able to be that team because Bosa is such an impactful player. With both Brock and Mack injured in some capacity, seems regardless of who starts, they'll still need Martinez to be the backup, but they can't elevate him again. So will they promote to 53? That's definitely one of the things that they'll be considering this week. Shasha was there for that. I'm assuming you're talking about that New Orleans Saints game back on December 8th, 2019. Yeah, fantastic game. There's no replacing Bosa. I would agree with that. Talking about releasing Bosa, I don't think that is I don't think that's a real option because I do believe that his entire salary for next year is guaranteed, and so no, that would be a bad look. Um, and I don't think it's a possibility from a standpoint. Yeah, in 2026, um, he's guaranteed $23.18 million. So I don't see that happening. I could see them um, kind of reworking or restructuring the contract to create some cap space with that projected $42 million cap space. But I will say this: um, while I just don't think there's any chance the 49ers would release him, you can't release an injured player regardless. So he won't be probably cleared to get back on the field until whatever it is next year, middle of training camp or right before the start of the season or some point early in the season. So they can't release him. So I would say, yeah, that's a non-starter.